Hello, thank you so much for having me speak at today's speaker meeting. I am Nikki and I am a Kratom addict and I have a year and 3 months Kratom free. So I'm going to talk about who I was before I got addicted, what I was like during my addiction, and what I'm like now. So here goes. As a child, I was diagnosed with autism, and I never really had any friends growing up, even though I wish I did. And I always felt like I was missing out when I would see other kids hanging out and being accepted for who they are. And I also had several traumatic things happen to me growing up, like being locked up in mental institutions. I never saw myself getting addicted to anything, though. Throughout my teenage years, I actually did try weed and alcohol and several other drugs, including fentanyl, but I never liked how it felt. I didn't like how it made me feel. I tried it, but it never became like a consistent thing for me. It was kind of just one and done. The last time I was in a psychiatric hospital was when I was 18 for mental health reasons, and I was court ordered to take a med called Abilify Maintena, which I'm still on. This medicine caused me to gain 59 pounds, and I was bullied a lot about being overweight. When I was 21, I ended up enrolling at a school that certifies its students to be biotechnology lab technicians, and I absolutely thrived at that school. And a few months before graduating, I received an offer from my top choice internship. It was an amazing startup lab where I was beyond excited to work at, but despite all the good things I had going on, I was still in an emotional crisis. So one day around the time I got the internship offer, my mom and I got into a huge fight, and it made me completely emotionally break down. I went up to my room and was just in so much desperation to have someone to talk to that would be there for me, but nobody was. I felt so isolated and just didn't know what to do. And earlier that week, I had bought an OPMS black shot at a local vape store. The night of the fight with my mom, I decided to try it. I don't know why I even thought it would be a good idea, but I also had a potentiator with the shot. When it started kicking in, I noticed that all the emotions of the crisis I was going through were lifted, and that what happened with my mom didn't bother me anymore. Then my body and mind started feeling like they were being filled with overwhelming pleasure, and I'd never felt that way before, and it absolutely I was mind blown, and it shocked me. I really do believe that I became a kratom addict that day, the first time I got high from it. It was the only thing that ever soothed my emotional pain to that intense level. So shortly after my first time trying the OPMS black shot, I started taking them regularly and felt very emotional on days when I did not. Kratom extract every day. The OPMS black shots had stopped producing that effect, though, so I decided to take Super K extra strong shots instead. And because I didn't want the Super K to stop working, I decided to cycle between various brands of shots so I don't take the same one every day. I was taking shots at work, and it was making my performance go downhill, and I only felt good for that 4 hour day that I was high. The rest of the day, I felt terrible. I was taking potentiators with the shots every day, often drinking 400 milligrams of mitragynine in one dose. And I had been only taking kratom extract for 4 to 5 months, and there was no way my tolerance was literally that high. So I started getting the wobbles when I would dose. It started with just rapid, constant blinking, but then my eyes would start rolling back and I'd get dizzy and spaced out. I started experiencing confusion from the shots. Like when someone would explain something that I'm supposed to do at work, I would not understand what they were even saying. I had to leave the lab one day because of this. I also started getting heart palpitations. This would usually happen when I was trying to sleep. My heart would beat hard in my chest. I went to see a cardiologist because of this, and he did an EKG and it came back abnormal. He advised me to stop taking kratom extract. I tried to, but after 11 days, I convinced myself that it was not actually caused by the shots and started taking them again. When I had started my internship, my boss said he was planning on hiring me as a full-time lab technician once I graduated, but at this point, because of my performance, he changed his mind. So I still graduated, but had to find a new job after. During the summer after graduation, I was still taking kratom extract every day, and these episodes of getting the wobbles started getting more severe and happening more often. During one particular episode, I drank a MIT 45 shot, and then an hour later drank another half of an MIT 45 shot because I thought I wasn't feeling it. I ended up getting very sick and spaced out with my eyes uncontrollably shaking. Another time, I took 3 OPMS black capsules and got bad wobbles from that too. And even though I tried not to get the wobbles, I would keep getting them more and more often, over and over again. And I would call my uncle and my friends, panicking about how sick I was from the wobbles. My uncle is a doctor, and he would tell me that kratom has a dangerous interaction with my prescribed medication and that I have too much to live for. He claimed to me that I need to quit the kratom. So then one day I attempted to quit again. This time it was because I got offered a job to be a quality control lab technician at Pfizer. I was overjoyed by this new job offer, so I quit for 6 weeks. And I had a couple slip-ups during week 4, but I got back on track as this career meant the world to me. After my second week at Pfizer, I had been kratom free for 6 weeks. Unfortunately, that weekend I relapsed. I had plans to go out with my friends. My friend AJ picked me and my friend Kevin up, but before he picked up his girlfriend Katrina, I asked him to stop at the vape store. When I got to the vape store, I decided that I wanted to take 3 MIT Go packets in one dose. The cashier told me to only take one, so I was kind of apprehensive about actually doing it, but I figured, what's the worst that could happen? So I ate all 3 packets right there at the vape store, and we left to pick up AJ's girlfriend. At first, I felt amazing, but then about a half hour into the experience, I noticed that I could not keep my eyes open. I was so tired that I was literally falling asleep in AJ's car and couldn't keep myself awake. I tried so hard to focus on keeping myself awake, but just couldn't do it. Eventually, Katrina brought me to an emergency room. I didn't really remember what happened, but she said that when we were at the mall, I was falling asleep while standing up and kept mumbling random words, and at one point just said, "I feel dizzy." The doctor gave me potassium pills, and eventually the kratom extract wore off. What happened scared me a lot, and I thought I should quit again, but 2 days later I had convinced myself that there's no way kratom extract can cause that. So I started taking it again, and that's when things went severely downhill. Kratom extract started making me completely non-functional and incapacitated. I started getting the wobbles every day. At this point, I was taking the shots usually 2 to 4 times a day. I took a different brand of shot for every dose, sometimes drinking 2 shots all at once. I didn't know how much I was taking in a day because I didn't keep track. But on a day when I did keep track, I drank 2 ox shots, half of an OPMS gold shot, 1 MIT 45 shot, and half of an OPMS black shot. At this point, it had been 9 months since my first time ever trying it. Those episodes of uncontrollably falling asleep that I got with Katrina started happening very frequently. I would drool very often. My vision would also get more blurry. One time I tried to read a sign at work that was in big letters like 5 feet away from me, and I couldn't read it. I would get very dizzy, which made standing and walking difficult. The confusion and unawareness of what's even going on was there too. It's like the lights were on, but nobody was home. And when the shots wore off approximately 2 hours after taking it, I would crash and be so exhausted I could barely walk. I could not do anything they asked me to do at work, and all I really had to do those first few months was read documents and push a cart around. I couldn't even do that because I was so wasted all the time. I was in big trouble and was at risk of losing my job. So then I tried to quit kratom again, and it felt terrible. Eventually, after a little over a week, I decided to substitute with Phenibut. I told myself that I'd only take the Phenibut once every other weekend. But when I felt its high for the first time, that idea went out the window and I started taking it every day. And it did the same stuff to me that the kratom extract did. It gave me the wobbles and made me non-functional and incapacitated. And when I ran out, I started taking kratom extract again anyway. So at that point, I was often taking kratom extract and Phenibut at the same time. I will admit it felt very good, but one memorable episode I had at work was when I was told to practice aliquoting in the lab with my coworker Ashley. I had dosed in the morning, but it had worn off and I felt very sick. I was freaking out and didn't know what to do. I told Ashley that I feel very sick and I don't think I can do it. I was panicking, messaging my friends, telling them what's happening and that I don't know what to do. I did not know why I was sick, but then I redosed on both Phenibut and half an OPMS gold shot and the sickness went away. I got through the aliquot, but that night was oversharing very embarrassing stuff to Ashley, such as saying, sometimes when I don't feel good, I like to sit like a cat, and went on all fours to demonstrate. At that point, it had been a year since my first time with kratom extract, and those heart palpitations had been happening almost every day. The doctor ordered me a stress test and a heart monitor to use for 2 weeks. After the doctor saw the results of the heart monitor, he scheduled an appointment with me, and at that point, I'd been taking kratom extract before even getting out of bed in the morning. So when I went to the Zoom appointment before work, my doctor tells me that my heart symptoms are substance induced and that I need to get sober. And he said if I have trouble with that, I should talk to my therapist about it, which I was already doing. I took kratom extract right after that appointment was over, went to work and kept taking it throughout the day. But a few days before Christmas, I decided to quit taking kratom extract again. This caused me to go through physical withdrawals, which made me not function at work as well because of how sick I was. Eventually, I substituted with Phenibut again, took that every day. I also decided to try taking tianeptine with the Phenibut. I did that on 10 separate occasions throughout the month of January 2023. One day, when I took the Phenibut and tianeptine together, I started feeling very sick, much more sick than I usually did for the two. I was supposed to meet with my therapist on Zoom. My heart was racing. I was very tired and dizzy. I was having chest pain, and felt like I was going to faint. My therapist urged me to go to urgent care, so my parents brought me to urgent care, and they checked my vital signs and an EKG, and once they saw the results of that, they immediately called an ambulance, and I was in the hospital until late at night. The next day, I took Phenibut again and had a very similar reaction, even though I just took half of the dose and no tianeptine. I put my mom's Apple Watch on, and it said my heart rate was 142 beats per minute. I don't know how accurate those watches are, by the way, but that's what it said. And I stopped taking the Phenibut right after that, but I felt absolutely miserable. So that night I bought an OPMS black shot. When I drank some of the OPMS black shot, I felt that amazing relief that I'd been needing and missing that entire time, but I knew how bad things were going and how many times I've tried to quit and would always go back. So after a month of continuous kratom use, I had an appointment with a doctor that specializes in addiction and an evaluation with a group therapy program. And they ended up diagnosing me with a severe substance use disorder. And because of how awful I felt when I would try to quit the kratom, I was told to try Suboxone. Unfortunately, they prescribed me a way too high dose of Suboxone that would be more appropriate for a heroin addict than someone like me. So when I took it for the first time, it got me high. It felt amazing, and I didn't want to just take it once a day, so I took it twice a day, then 3 times a day. And after less than a month, I was on double the dose they started me on. And I got the wobbles from the Suboxone too, just like the kratom extract. I would uncontrollably fall asleep, and I got sent home from work because of this. I would get dizzy and hot. I'd have a hard time walking and got nothing done at work. And it was a shock they hadn't fired me already. And after a month of that, I started taking tianeptine with the Suboxone, and the tianeptine got me very high and gave me the wobbles too. During one particular episode, my friends Nick and Hannah called my parents, telling them that I'm overdosing and need to go to a hospital, and I got very angry after that. I told a lot of people that they said that to mess with me and get a rise out of my parents, but the truth is that they're not the only ones who thought I should go to the hospital because of my wobbles during those months. There were a couple other episodes like that too, one that I remember particularly well. But when I stopped taking the tianeptine, I experienced withdrawal symptoms, so then I started taking kratom extract with the Suboxone. The first time I reintroduced that, I drank an MIT 45 shot and got high, but not the type of high I craved, so I kept taking more and more, getting the wobbles every day because I kept fighting to get that feeling. My life was a living nightmare, and during that time, there was an episode where I got chest pain and pain in my left arm and was feeling dizzy, but just sat it out and still took more kratom extract a few hours later. Then there was a time when I drank half of a shot that said it had 18 grams in it or something like that. Ate 2 Kratom extract gummies, started eating a Kratom extract candy that had 8 grams in it. But before I could even finish that, when I took that all first thing in the morning, it caused a major freak out. I was losing my sense of direction and was very confused. I was supposed to aliquot the COVID vaccine that day, but never ended up making it to work. So on the 4th of July weekend of 2023, my parents admitted me to a detox facility. They took me off the Suboxone and I was off the Kratom extract and tianeptine as well. After 8 days at the detox, I got sent to a rehab. And at the rehab, I was still going through withdrawals. So I got diagnosed with post-acute withdrawal syndrome. I went to an IOP after the rehab and they said, and then said that I was ready to go back to work. But when I walked into the workplace, my boss sat me down in a room with her boss, the workplace nurse, and human resources, and they told me that I was fired because of my performance. This was absolutely devastating for me, and it still is. I have had nightmares about it ever since. I was going to AA every day, but I still had post-acute withdrawal syndrome, and I was getting more and more miserable as the days went by. So on September 16th of 2023, I bought 2 OPMS gold shots and broke my 57-day streak. The next day, I owned up to it to my mom and threw away the remaining Kratom extract. This alone made my post-acute withdrawal syndrome worse. And it felt inhumane for me to keep going on like this. I tried to quit taking Kratom extract again and again, then would relapse again and again, because going through the post-acute withdrawal syndrome was extremely painful. And at the time, I compared it to being set on fire because it was not bearable for any amount of time. And I was also using tianeptine sporadically. Eventually, as this went on, I started noticing that I feel full after just a couple bites of food. I didn't pay attention to it at the time, but it kept progressing until I started getting absolutely agonizing pain in my stomach from just a sip of water, and I couldn't even get down a spoonful of food. On one particular day, I was at Target and I had dropped something, so I go to pick it up, and when I try to stand up, I lose my vision, my heart pounds, and I feel very lightheaded and have to sit back down on the floor. And these symptoms kept worsening, and I ended up in the emergency room multiple times. They always injected me with anti-acid medication and sent me home. My normal weight is 170 pounds, but I was rapidly losing weight. In the beginning, I was losing 6 pounds a week. And when I would tell the doctors at the emergency room this, though, they would not see it as concerning because I was considered overweight BMI. I was told to just drink ginger tea because there's nothing wrong. One particular nurse told me that I actually need to lose more weight. When I told her that I already am losing weight and that I barely eat, she said, well, eat smaller portions. My vision would go completely black and my heart would pound every time I went from sitting to standing or lying down to sitting. I couldn't do my laundry. I had trouble doing basic things like applying makeup. So in December of 2023, I got a job offer to work in biomanufacturing at a company called Integra Life Sciences. I was desperate to make this career work, so I accepted the job offer. I was still very sick, rapidly losing weight, and only eating about 200 calories a day. After just about every bite of food, I was curled up on the floor, shaking in agonizing pain. During my last 2 days at Integra Life Sciences, I was trained to get into a bunny suit and enter the clean room. Unfortunately, I almost fainted when trying to do this. I sat on the floor and was unable to get up for a very long time. When I eventually did get up, they sent me home. In January of 2024, I went to an appointment with my primary care doctor. And at this point, I'm having a very difficult time walking because of extreme lightheadedness. She told me that I weigh 141 pounds and that a week ago I weighed 145 pounds and that 2 months ago I weighed 169 pounds. She asked me what I eat in a day. I told her what I've been eating daily for the past 2 months, and immediately after that was taken in a wheelchair to the emergency room to be admitted to Mass General Hospital. I tried to get up from the wheelchair because I needed to go to the bathroom, but I lost the ability to stand, and even attempting to stand for a second made my vision go completely black. The nurse said I look like I'm gonna pass out, and I ended up being injected with phosphorus and potassium because I was deficient in both, and also got IV dextrose. I ended up being diagnosed with visceral hypersensitivity syndrome, which is a condition that's caused by drugs like kratom extract and tianeptine. I was given a medication called nortriptyline, and once that started working, I finally ate some food. Unfortunately, I ended up getting refeeding syndrome, which is a serious complication of malnutrition that over 70% of people die from if it's not treated. When I got it, I had to be put on multiple IVs for days just to be kept alive, and I was injected with dextrose 3 times, as well as cortisol, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. After a week of being in the hospital, I was medically stable and discharged and told to keep taking the nortriptyline for my stomach pain as well as compazine for nausea. Unfortunately, 2 days after being released from the hospital, I relapsed on kratom extract. At this point, I was not drinking around 3 bottles a day like I did when I worked at Pfizer. In fact, I actually had developed a reverse tolerance, so it was taking me days just to get through 1 bottle of kratom extract. I still got the wobbles every day. I was no longer working at Integra Life Sciences, though, because when I was in the hospital, they replaced me with someone else. The relapse caused my visceral hypersensitivity syndrome to return, causing me to eat less than 200 calories a day again. I was at a very high risk of developing refeeding syndrome again. I did not want to stop taking kratom extract because leading up to the relapse, my post-acute withdrawal syndrome was in full swing and I was emotionally tortured. On February 11th, 2024, I arrived at the emergency room. I was only eating half a cup of vanilla pudding throughout the entire day, and that was my diet every day. I had brought my kratom extract with me to the hospital and became intoxicated there. I ended up owning up to the doctor about this, and he took away all my kratom extract, and that was the last time I ever took kratom extract. I was told at the hospital that I weigh 128 pounds and that I had lost 41 pounds in 3 months. I was diagnosed with severe malnutrition and had blood tests to monitor for refeeding syndrome every day. I stayed at the hospital for about 3 weeks. They doubled my dose of nortriptyline, and I did end up getting refeeding syndrome again. I did not know what my life would be like going forward because the cycle I was stuck in was miserable. They finally let me go home when I was able to get down 900 calories a day and my refeeding syndrome was gone. So flash forward to today, I now have 1 year and 3 months of continuous sobriety. I was never able to get a job at a lab again, despite my 6 months of continuous applying and interviewing. I think that door's just closed for me for the time being. But now I'm doing everything I can to get my career back, and I know this depends on me staying sober. So I decided to go back to school. I'm enrolled in the honors program at my local community college, starting to get an associate's degree. I've been there since last summer, and I still have a 4.0 GPA. And I enjoy hanging out with my many friends, singing at open mics, posting on my fashion blog. And I also have a part-time job at the college library. And I also have a boyfriend who I've been dating since May of 2024. I also recently got accepted into a certification program that can help me get my lab career back. And I'm looking forward to the future and know that now I can finally accomplish so much. And I'm completely straight edge. I don't drink alcohol, no smoking, no vaping, no scratch tickets. I don't even drink energy drinks because what happened to me from kratom extract was terrible. And I don't want to take the chance with anything now. I still have long-lasting medical after effects from everything that happened to me. Every day, many times a day, I get very bad heart palpitations almost every time I change positions, which can make it take a long time to get up from sitting. For months, I used to still see black when this would happen as well, and I still get lots of questions, comments, and stares from random people because of this. I still go to AA and NA meetings every day. I still have dreams about kratom extract very often. And I have still gone through long phases of mental obsession with kratom extract that take over and make me feel very sad for weeks at a time. I know that now my new purpose and priority will be to keep recovering from my kratom extract addiction. And I hope one day I can help others who are like me. And I also want to fight fat phobia and weight stigma. This is because doctors judge me for my size and weight till I was literally about to die to help me. I don't want many people to have to go through what I went through because of the fact that weight loss is so glorified in our society. So if you're new or feeling discouraged because you relapse again, I hope you can see me as an example that you can recover too. It took me multiple tries to get this amount of time. So never give up, because eventually it will stick, and I'll stick around on the Zoom if anyone needs to talk. But yeah, I know I got a lot of messages in the chat, it looks like. But yeah, today I'm proud to be a recovered kratom addict.
Thank you so much for your share, Nikki. That was absolutely amazing. Wow, just so relatable on so many levels. I'm just really proud of you.